Long ago in a village called Ogbunike near the great Niger River, there lived a beautiful young woman named Adaugo. Many men admired Adaugo's beauty and wanted to make her their wife. When Adaugo turned 18 years old, her parents started receiving marriage proposals from families all across the region. The first suitor was a farmer named Emeka from a neighboring village. Emeka came to Adaugo's family compound riding a strong stallion and bearing gifts of yams, palm oil, and tobacco leaves. He was a hard-working and decent man. Adaugo is the jewel of the village. I will cherish her all my days if you allow me to make her my wife, Emeka proclaimed to Adaugo's parents. Adaugo's parents were pleased with Emeka's proposal as he could provide a stable life working the fertile lands. When they asked Adaugo what she thought, she agreed to marry Emeka. The wedding celebration lasted 3 days and 3 nights with music, dancing, huge feasts, and many beautiful patterned cloths and beads given as gifts. On the final night, Adaugo joined Emeka in his hut as his wife. However, less than 1 year into the marriage, Adaugo grew unhappy. Her new life as a farmer's wife was much too difficult and grueling for her liking. Emeka, must I toil in the hot sun all day hoeing the fields and carrying heavy baskets of vegetables? Adaugo complained. My slender arms are already growing muscular from all this labor. But my wife, this is the way of farming life, Emeka explained patiently. We must all work hard together to reap the bounties of the land. Adaugo shook her head. I cannot continue living like this. I want nice things and a more comfortable life. I wish to divorce you. Saddened by her decision, Emeka had no choice but to allow Adaugo to leave and return to her family's village. Their marriage lasted only 10 months. Not long after, another man came courting Adaugo. This was a wealthy trader named Okoro who traveled all over Nigeria buying and selling provisions like smoked fish, baskets, spices, and palm wine. Beauty like yours deserves the finest riches and comfort, Okoro told Adaugo while presenting her with bowls of expensive Dutch cloth. Marry me, and you shall want for nothing. Dazzled by Okoro's material success and hopeful for an easier life, Adaugo accepted his proposal. They married in an even bigger celebration that lasted a full week. True to his word, Okoro showered Adaugo with beautiful dresses, coral beads, copper bracelets, and all sorts of luxuries. She never had to lift a finger to cook, clean, or fetch water, as Okoro had servants to handle all that. For the first few years, Adaugo was delighted with her lavish new lifestyle as Okoro's wife. She hosted elaborate dinner parties and lolled about eating expensive delicacies like bushmeat seasoned with ogbono seeds. However, Okoro's work soon began keeping him away from home for longer and longer stretches at a time as he went on far-flung trading voyages. Sometimes he would be gone for 6 months or more. Adaugo grew very lonely during these long absences, with only servants for company. She started to resent Okoro's constant traveling, as well as his obsessive pursuit of greater wealth. My husband cares only about acquiring more riches and textiles, Adaugo lamented to a friend one day. I am nothing but a pretty ornament to dress up and then pay no attention to. When Okoro returned home from one of his long trading journeys, Adaugo confronted him. My love for you has withered like an unwatered plant, she declared. Your pursuit of profit means more to you than your wife's companionship. I want to divorce. Okoro was heartbroken and bewildered. He had provided Adaugo with such a life of ease and indulgence. But, but I only wish to shower you with the finest jewels and attire. he stammered, trying to make her stay. Adaugo's mind was made up, however. She left Okoro and his grand home filled with carved ivory, brassware, and finely woven tapestries behind. Their marriage had lasted 4 years. It wasn't long before another man came calling for Adaugo's hand. This was a powerful horse trader and warrior named Okonkwo, who was greatly feared throughout the region. Okonkwo arrived at Adaugo's family compound with an entourage of a dozen muscular men clad in raffia and animal skins. Some carried spears and shields, while others led a string of the most magnificent stallions anyone had ever seen. "I am a man who commands respect wherever I go," Okonkwo bellowed in a voice like thunder. "If you accept my bride price of these fine stallions, you will be honored to have such a mighty son-in-law." Although Okonkwo had an intimidating presence, Adaugo's parents knew their daughter preferred men of status and wealth. The magnificent horses were impossible to resist as a bride price. So, once again, Adaugo prepared for another wedding ceremony. The marriage to Okonkwo started off better than Adaugo's previous two unions. She loved riding and became an expert horse trainer alongside her husband. Together, they cared for Okonkwo's valuable herd and traveled widely, trading horses and sometimes battling rival tribes. However, Adaugo's joy in her new adventurous life didn't last. Okonkwo's violent ways eventually became too much for her. When enemies threatened Okonkwo's trading caravans or horse herds, he would gather his warrior men and ruthlessly attack opposing clans and villages. The bloody savagery that Okonkwo and his men resorted to deeply disturbed Adaugo's sensibilities. "I cannot be married to a man who lives by the spear and has so little regard for human life," Adaugo told her husband after one particularly grisly skirmish. "The incessant warfare is too much for me. I want out of this marriage." "But my fierce tigress, you were once a brave warrior woman by my side," Okonkwo protested. "Together we have built an empire distributing the finest horses in all the land." Adaugo shook her head firmly. "My heart has turned against you and your ways. I will return to my family once more." Grudgingly, Okonkwo had to accept Adaugo's wishes, saddened that his beautiful warrior queen wished to leave him, but knowing better than to defy her strong will. She had been his wife for 3 years. Not long after leaving Okonkwo, Adaugo was married off again, this time to the nephew of a very prominent clan leader and religious leader named Okeke. This young man, whose name was Ugonna, was being groomed to take over his uncle's influential position someday. An important man like myself deserves an elegant and fertile woman like Adaugo by my side, the heavy-set Ugonna proclaimed at their wedding ceremony held in his uncle's compound. For Adaugo, this marriage started off more promising than her previous three. Ugonna came from an elite family and showered his new wife with all sorts of lavish woven garments, brass jewelry, and ceremonial regalia. Best of all, Adaugo loved how respected and important Ugonna was in their community. As the future traditional leader, he was constantly being hosted at banquets and high-profile social events. "Finally, I shall have the prominence and admiration I have always craved," Adaugo told her new husbands contentedly. However, after a few months, Adaugo noticed a major flaw in Ugonna's character. He was extremely greedy, corrupt, and abused his family's position of power. When neighboring villagers came to consult with Ugonna about disputes, crop issues, or other matters, he would demand outrageous fees and gifts before assisting them. The poor families who couldn't afford such bribes were turned away to suffer. Adaugo grew increasingly disgusted with Ugonya's greed and exploitation of the villagers who looked to him for wise leadership. You shame your family name with your avarice and dishonorable ways, she said, confronting him about his corrupt behavior. I want no part of this marriage to a man without integrity. Ogona tried to rationalize his actions. But my jewel, these gifts merely compensate me for all my efforts as clan councillor. Is that so wrong? Adaugo was unmoved. You know well these are dirty bribes taken from the most desperate people. Mark my words, such ungodly greed will be your downfall. With that, Adaugo gathered her things and returned to her family's village, leaving behind the prestigious life as the wife of a wealthy clan leader. Her fourth marriage had lasted only 8 months. The years went by, and Adaugo remained unmarried. Suitor after suitor came calling, but she turned them all away. None seemed to possess the perfect mix of qualities she required in a husband. By her early 30s, Adaugo's legendary beauty began to fade. The sculpted cheeks and glowing skin of her youth gave way to lined face and crow's feet. Her sinewy arms and legs, once the envy of every maiden, became thin and bony with age. To make matters worse, Adaugo's dreams of being married to an admired man and living a pampered life of luxury remained unfulfilled. Every night she went to sleep on a thin mat in her family's modest hut, instead of the lavish bedchambers she had once known briefly in the homes of the wealthy men she married. Adaugo's peers all had multiple children who helped till the fields and collect water and firewood. But she remained childless, with no one to look after her now that she was seen as an old maid with little prospects. One afternoon, Adaugo went to collect wild berries in the bush outside her village, as she did every few days to supplement her sparse meals. As she filled her woven basket, she passed a calm stream where children were playing and bathing. Adaugo sat by the water's edge, watching the happy young mothers tenderly caring for their babies and small children. The joyful shrieks of the kids echoed all around as they splashed and chased each other along the shallow banks. Tears rolled down Adaugo's dry cheeks. She had spent her best years consumed with finding a prominent husband and life of comfort and status, but this endless pursuit had left her alone, impoverished, and worst of all, childless in her old age. If only I had appreciated what truly mattered in life, instead of being so materialistic and selfish, she thought with immense regret. A good husband and children to love would have fulfilled me in a way that no riches or admiration ever could. From that day on, Adaugo committed herself to humbler ways. She spent her remaining years helping families in her village look after their children and doing whatever odd jobs she could to get by.